In this video, I want to show you guys step by step how people are filing taxes using your personal information. This is for educational purposes only, and I'm only showing you why you should keep your information more private and be careful what websites you put your information on. Also, I'll be showing you what people do if they had no job for their entire year, but they still wanted to get a tax refund.
In this video, I'll show you how people are creating W-2s, getting the information for the W-2s, and filing taxes with it. So I'll take you through the entire process of filing a tax return with employment or unemployed. I'll also show you ways people are getting bigger returns than normal. And the last thing before we start, I do not recommend anyone to do this on themselves, and I am not encouraging anyone to do this. If you choose to copy what I do and get a refund, just know that it's all on you, and I'm showing this video only to show you why you should always keep your information as private as you can. And also, this is simply how you would file taxes if you received an actual W-2 from your employer. But without further delay, let's start the process. The first thing a person would do if they wanted to file taxes as you, assuming they don't know exactly where you work at, they will simply have to give you a job. Since they can't make anything up because it would cause red flags, they would have to find an actual company's name and acquire all of the details for that company, the EIN, the address, etc. Step 1. So they would do a Google search for the top 500 public companies and then go to the Wikipedia website where all 500 companies are listed. Next, they would choose a company that seems more realistic for the person they're filing a tax return for. In this case, we'll go with Tyson Foods, mainly because it's a food processing company and it's not anything to do with technology or banking that would probably be more alert when it comes to these types of things. Not saying you can't use other companies, but when people are doing this type of thing, they like to stay under the radar as much as possible. But once they found a good enough company to use, they will then go to the company search website EDGAR and do a search for the company's name. In this case, we'll do a search for Tyson Foods. Here it is right here. So we'll open it up in a new tab, and now we have the company search results. Next, if you click under company information, right here we have everything ready to file taxes using Tyson Foods as our employer. Step 2. The next thing a person who stole your information would do is they would create a W-2 to use as proof if they need it later on to show anybody. So they would go to a site like pdffiler.com and they would simply create a free W-2 from blank and start to fill it out with company's information we just found. And once again, in this case, we'll be using Tyson Foods. So first they would put in the person's social security number, and then they would go back and get all of the company's information and fill it in on the blank W-2, like this. Make sure not to leave out the state part, and also you can't forget to put your address in this box right here. I put the company's address in here, but it clearly says employee's address and zip code, not the employer's. But that's all for the W-2 right now, and we'll revisit it after we file the return and have the correct numbers to put inside of the boxes. Step 3, which is filing the tax return. So we'll be filing on TurboTax, which is the best software to use according to everyone on Google. If you have an account, sign in, and if you don't, then create a new one. But let me log in really quick. So now that we're logged in, we can start working on the return, and I'll make sure to speed the video up as much as I can and only talk on parts that I feel like are more important. So please just follow along and pause the video where you need to. For employment, they make sure to check I have a W-2, that way they can fill out a W-2 section on the tax return so they can get a tax refund. If you are adding dependents, then you can check this box, but if you are not, then don't check the box. But this year, they're giving an extra $200 for each dependent, so instead of $2,000 like last year, this year it's $2,200 for each dependent. I'll add a dependent later on in the video so I can show you how much the refund increases. You can also choose to be head of household and you'll get an even bigger refund. I'll also show you that later in the video. But right here, if you choose, I paid rent, then you would be classified as head of household. But click continue. For how comfortable are doing your taxes, just select I'm comfortable on my own and click continue. For this page, you want to do it yourself and start for free. But you will have to pay if you choose to file your state. Luckily, you can pay from the refund, and you never have to pay up front. Next, they ask how did you file your taxes last year, and no matter what, they will always select did not file last year, and there shouldn't be a problem with going through to the next page. Now is where you start to enter your personal information. When that's finished for occupation or job title, we'll just enter Tyson Foods. Now hit continue. On the next page, we have to enter our address and phone number, and when we're done, hit continue. On this specific part, I messed up, and I chose the wrong state, which gave me an error while filing, but we'll go back and fix everything at the end. On this page, we want to put the correct social security number, but for now, we'll skip this step, and we'll come back later on to add it. On this page is where they ask if you lived in the state. You say that your address is in basically before the new year. This is where you can put you lived in the same state where the company is based at if your current state is totally different from the company's state. For example, say you live in Chicago right now, but the company is in Arkansas. You can just say you lived in Arkansas in 2025, and that's completely normal and common, so there should be no red flags. If you want to keep it simple, you don't have to do this step, and it's totally fine to live in a different state or have a different mailing address than the state you worked in or are currently still working in. The next page is about your household. We want to select single. For dependents right now, we'll select no, but like I said before, we'll come back later on in the video and add a dependent so you can see the difference in the tax refund amount. After a quick review, hit continue. Next, they want me to okay a couple of things, and here's one of those pages to where they're always trying to trick you into signing something. They want to share your tax info and share your tax data. Just click review and sign, but instead select no thanks, and then click continue. When you come to this page, just always scroll down and click don't add max, so they don't charge you anything extra that you don't need. Let's talk about your income page. This is where all of the magic happens, and we can put the numbers in for our tax return. Now you want to click work on my W-2 and then click continue. Enter your employer ID number from your W-2. Earlier, we started filling out a blank W-2, and this is the information we need for the next steps. So go back and get the EIN number for Tyson Foods and enter it here. This is the same number we got from the company's information page right here. After we enter the number, hit continue. The next page is how would you like to enter your W information. We'll go down to the bottom and select type it in myself. Next, we'll put the employer's address, zip code, city, and state. When you're done, just make sure everything is correct, then select continue. Now we get to the juicy part by adding the income and taxes withheld. This is the part where most people mess up and they run into problems getting a refund. What you have to understand is that the numbers have to be believable and the percentages have to be correct. Otherwise, you're causing big red flags. Since a person who stole information won't have any real numbers to put inside of these boxes, they have to make them up out of thin air so they're believable. So, for a normal person, making around $52,000 would not be suspicious. So let's put for box number 1, $62,000. That number wouldn't cause any red flags, and it looks like a pretty normal amount, not too high or not too low. The key is that you don't have to make over $100,000 per year to get a big tax refund. When people start putting amounts over $100,000, it starts to look suspicious for a Tyson Foods or a Subway employee. Just keep the amount low and simple. Next, we have to add a number for social wages, and once again, with my experience, I feel like $4,600 is a good enough amount to use, so we'll go with that. Now moving on to Medicare wages. It's okay for this number to be around the same number as Social Security wages, but for this example, I'll use $2,750. But now, once we're done guessing these numbers, we have to add the amount withheld from all of these amounts, and for this part, you can't guess the amounts. You have to be more accurate because inaccuracy can determine if someone gets a refund or not. With that being said, we have to see how much we should withhold from our wages and tips amount. If we do a Google search to see how much federal tax should be withheld from our wages and tips, it's saying for our amount of $62,000, it should be 22% withheld. If someone was filing taxes for themselves and trying to do everything the right way, then there would be a few more steps to see exactly how much is withheld, but we'll skip that step because if someone had your information and wanted to file a tax return in your name before you did, then they wouldn't care about the right way to file taxes. They would just do it good enough so they could still receive a refund check, and that's exactly the way that I'm showing you. But the next step is to go to a percentage calculator and see how much 22% is of our $62,000 in wages and tips. Then put that total into box number 2. So 22% of $62,000 is $1,360. That's the number we have to put into box number 2 for federal income tax withheld. Next, we have to do the same thing for Social Security withheld. So if we go to Google, it says 7, 10, 12, or 22% withheld. So over in our calculator, if we choose 7% withheld, it doesn't seem like enough to get a decent refund. So we'll just put 22%. And 22% withheld from our $4,600 is $1,012. And that's what we'll put into box number 4. Also, don't worry if the numbers are too off, because TurboTax will help you get them back on track. That's one thing I like about this software. They keep you from making mistakes, so your tax return has a better chance of getting accepted. But once that one is done, we have to move on to the Medicare tax withheld. And if we do a quick Google search, it says standard Medicare tax withheld is a flat 1.45%. So now we'll go back to our calculator, and we have to see what 1.45% is of $2,750. And the amount is about $39.87. So now we'll go back and put that amount into box number 6. We'll just put $39, and that'll be perfect without any flags. It's always okay to round up or down with these numbers. Also, remember that everything we just did for federal will go the same exact way no matter what state you live in. The only time it will be different is when we do the state part and we start looking for the state tax withheld. But now that we have that done, we can move on down to the state portion. This part is optional, and you don't have to file it right now because you can always file